is the birth of Kaizen. It's been 2 years. I was pregnant with Kaizen. It was like morning sickness was fine. It was okay. I could keep fruits down and see like the very beginning where I was sad. Literally, I slept in our living room. I had a blow up mattress for the living room. I would not go into the room. The room, for some reason, just like, carpet in there. Hated how it smelled. When you're pregnant, you go through a phase. I believe we all go through this phase. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're pregnant, you go through a phase where you cannot stand the smell of your house, and I could not stand the smell of my house. So we ended up complaining to the office. They came out, took the carpet out. That helped a little bit. Morning sickness, that first 3 months or 2 months, I slept in that living room. The living room was my bedroom. With him, the birth wasn't really traumatic like Auntie's, but the newborn stage, we'll get into that. I started going into labor, I want to say maybe like a week or two after I made that last video talking about Auntie's birth and stuff. They're playing at the playground, so I'm multitasking. I went into labor at my aunt's house. I was doing laundry. I want to say I was there pretty late. I had the Braxton Hicks throughout the day. If you don't know what Braxton Hicks contractions are, because I didn't feel them with Auntie's when I was pregnant with Auntie, the best way I can describe them is if you can think of the baby turning and it giving you a very uncomfortable feeling in your stomach. That's the only way I could describe it. Like, I'm picturing it in my head. That's what I imagine. Point where it was like, okay, this is becoming more frequent, like maybe 2 every hour or something like that. And so I started like in my notes, like the times that I was feeling them, how long they were lasting. Out of nowhere, they started like, it was like, I think it was like every 2 minutes I was feeling a contraction. There was a point where I had to tell my aunt what was going on. My dad was there, so he was able to watch like the kid. Went to the tub, was trying to talk to my husband and tell him what's going on. There was a point where I'm trying to speak fast to tell you what's going on, but I'm also trying to prepare myself for the next contraction. I have a contraction and I don't know how long it lasts, but I know you have a specific like window where you have to prepare your body for that next contraction.
I do see.
Oh, okay. There's some water. We're headed to the hospital, and we get to the hospital and I get into the gown. Auntie's birth, when I was in labor, I didn't really feel the contractions like until I think it was like between 5 and 8 centimeters. But with Kaizen's, and I was told every child you have, the worser it feels. The time I went in there, they're like, oh yeah, you're barely, I think they said I was barely like 1 centimeter or maybe 3 centimeters. I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like, no way. In the hospital bed, and I'm instantly like, okay, I need the epidural. Like, I cannot handle this. I can't. The crazy part is, even when you're in that much pain, you still have to go and do the urine test and get the gown on and undressed and all this stuff. And I'm like, as I'm doing this, because then I'm in the restroom by myself, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I'm in pain and you're expecting me to get naked into this gown. I'm in pain. I'm literally dying. They're asking you all these questions and you're also still there dying. Of course they got to get their information, but it's like, dang, I've been through this before. Y'all can't just copy and paste. Like, guys, I don't know where they took me. A lot of that process I blocked out because I was in so much pain. We get into the room and I'm literally crying at this point. I'm crying. I'm like yelling through the contractions, which is the worst thing you could do. Okay, if you are trying to go natural, don't yell. That does not help your body at all. I finally get the epidural, and the epidural is really scary. The first time with Auntie, I don't think I felt when I got the epidural because I was in the middle of a contraction, so I had to stay very still. I had to breathe through the contraction. I remember like holding the nurse so tight and telling her, do not leave me. Like, but with Kaizen's, it took me back in time, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this to her. It's a point where I think when they put the catheter through you, it's very, very weird. It's like a popping or like a tingling thing, and it kind of like made me twitch. I got scared, and I'm like, oh my god, I just ruined everything. Like, I'm probably going to be paralyzed and probably going to be this. Like, instantly in my head, I asked both the anesthesiologist and the nurse, I'm like, is everything okay? Like, am I good? Am I going to be fine? They're like, yeah, you're fine. Did you feel anything in your leg? And I was like, yeah. Then they got quiet for a second, and I was like, oh yeah, it's really happening. They don't want to tell me. But everything worked out. By the time I got the epidural, the doctor came in. She's like, yeah, you're at 5 centimeters. Next thing you know, like, when time frame, hours could have went by, and it felt like 10 minutes. Like, it didn't feel that long. My husband had came in, and by the time he came in, it's like, hey, yeah, you're already ready to deliver. So it went by in my head pretty fast. I think we were probably in the hospital for maybe a day or 2 days, if that. While we were in the hospital, I've never experienced this before, but while we were in the hospital, Kaizen was choking a lot. He was choking a lot when he was first born, and that was kind of like really scary. And it's funny because I remember there was a nurse that came in, and like, she was checking on the baby and, you know, flipping him around, making sure everything's like lined up, stuff like that, whatever the kid doctors do, I guess, and the kid nurses. I think she was a nurse. I don't know if she was a doctor. I think she was a nurse. But anyway, so when she came in, he started choking, and so she got the little suction thing, and she was like, yeah, if this ever happens, all you have to do is just flip him over, do this, take that, da da da. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave this here for you, so if it happens again, you know what to do. In my head, I'm like, oh, okay, so you're gonna leave my child's life in my hands. Okay, that's fine. It happened maybe 2 times after that where I had to actually like handle that, but I will say, going to sleep that night, kept waking up, checking on him, making sure he didn't choke. Kaizen's latch was also very bad, so when I was breastfeeding, it was a lot of pain. And I thought it was only because, okay, you know, my boobs aren't used to this, but no, it was his latch. I had to flip him over and do like all these different things with him. That was the birth of Kaizen. It was amazing seeing Auntie meet Kaizen. When he first walked in, there were many people say, like, he's more like, what is really going on? He knew I was at the hospital. He knew that there was a baby in my stomach, and he knew that the baby was gonna be born. When he first met Kaizen, it was like, oh wow. I didn't really understand yet until I did like let him hold the baby and stuff like that, but it was really sweet. But when we got home, that's when things kind of like got a little serious. So when you're at the hospital, you have all the support, you have the nurses coming in, even though you probably don't want them to come in every hour, every 30 minutes to check on you and check on the baby and stuff like that. It's still, you have that support. So like, if anything is wrong, you can talk to them. But when you get home, it's really like, okay, if you don't have a huge family and you don't have people there to help you with the baby and help you with the day-to-day things and just, you know, get some rest, stuff like that, it can be very, very hard. It was just me and my husband that were there. I just remember being extremely exhausted, and every birth is different, every child is different. When we got home, I did end up having to pump and feed him from a bottle because the latch was so bad and so painful for myself. But it wasn't just that part. It was also, he was colic. So every time I would feed him, I would have to get up, and I don't know how to even like describe how I'd have to hold him. If he's like this, right, and his legs are here, I would have to flip him like on his stomach, hold his knees to his chest, but I would carry him like that. And I'd pat his back and just like kind of bounce him. And I had to do this all the time, because if not, he would be in a lot of pain and he'd be crying and be very frustrating for me. And I mean, guys, it was a dark time for me. Let me say that, okay? Only because it was a lot. When I would breastfeed him, pump one side, feed him on the other side. And then once I got enough milk from that one pump, which was pretty fast, I'd pour it into a bottle, then I'd give him the bottle, and then I would pump my boobs and just be up all night doing that. And that's just like how the routine was. On top of that, anytime like I would feed him, when the milk comes down, I don't know, for me, it kind of made my thoughts come down too, if that makes sense. So it was really sad. I would cry. I had postpartum rage. So I was, every little thing triggered me and made me mad. And I don't know, it was crazy. It was on top of, dealing with a newborn, then you have a toddler, and then you have the mom guilt of all my attention is going to the newborn, like, okay, I hope my toddler doesn't feel like I don't love him anymore and stuff like that. So the enemy was trying to get in my head. And, it was very, very dark for me. And it was very traumatizing just because Kaizen had so many things that were going wrong. He's seen the doctor more times than Auntie's seen the doctor. So to like 6 months was it was a lot. We got through it. My husband was very helpful during the day. He would take the kids out, and I would get a little bit of sleep, but it's still that you have to bring him back at a certain time so I could feed him. So it was like staying on that schedule. And I think a lot of people don't take newborns out when they're first born. Us, on the other hand, we are very different. We believe that them being in the sun is the best thing. So, we didn't hold him hostage inside. Like, we would go outside. Having a newborn and having a toddler is very it's very interesting, right? Because like, you have the kid that's been around for the longest time, so used to not having any other kid, right? And you go from being the only kid to now you have a sibling. And honestly, I think he adjusted pretty well, honestly. I think he adjusted pretty well. There was like a point where he's like, yeah, this is my brother. I love my brother. He'd give him kisses. He'd always go up to him and smile. I don't know. It's a very, very sweet, amazing thing. Anyways, that is being pregnant with a toddler journey for me. It was kind of like a long overdue. I'll go through that whole process all over again after I have baby number 3. And this will be the final kid, because I'm not, again, I don't think my body could handle it mentally. But there are some women who can have 1,000 kids and be fine, but I am not one of those women.